What is up, team? Long time no see, long time no talk. Not gonna lie, I imagined this moment in many different ways. I imagined all the things that I could say. Um, and I never really came up with anything. You know me, I like to just fly. But today I woke up and I just felt something a little different, and there's just been different things kind of weighing with me. And so I think I know what I want to talk about, because that's the thing about it, is it's my platform. I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about. And so I want to talk about perception versus reality, because I think that's very important for many reasons. I can I can apologize for being away. I can make excuses. I can do all these things. But, honestly, yesterday in many ways is completely irrelevant. And tomorrow is not promised to us. So I am right here in this moment right now. And I think I'm just going to speak about what I feel right now. So perception versus reality. We're going to start with the individual. I'm going to start with myself, because that's my lived experience and that's what I'm basing this data off. So, as I said, I pictured this moment coming back to speak on my platform. I pictured it in many different ways. I pictured, some grand return, the swagger, the confidence, the charisma, all the things that I watched the videos that I had. It fires me up, but I don't have that fire right now for many different reasons, and I don't know how to create that in this moment, so I'm just going to approach this a little differently. And so my perception of what this moment would be or should be, I perceived it as something different than it actually is, because right now I'm just speaking. It's casual, it's candid. It is not anything more or anything less. It only is what it is. It is reality. But I perceived it differently, and I told myself for so many different reasons that I could not come and do this. Some of those reasons were right, because I don't write like a script, or I don't write any long form to like get on here and read. There's like a teleprompter in my brain. People speak differently. It's just coming and flowing as I'm speaking. But I would try to practice, and I would try to mimic some of the ways that I could do it before, and it just didn't quite hit. It did not feel good. It just felt like a performance. And even though before I was somewhat performing, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt very authentic. And I think that's why it was so magnetic in that last iteration of content, because, it was very authentic. It was very fiery, very fun. But like I'm saying, I perceived this moment substantially different than what it would be. And I perceived it to be more. And in all honesty, I perceived it to be more than what it is. And I think that oftentimes our perception of things can either hinder us or make things better. Life is about perception. It's about reality, but it's also about how we perceive it and how we respond to it. Not to be all preachy and esoteric, but again, this is what I'm feeling in this moment, and this is just what I wanted to talk about. Y'all want me to come back, so y'all gonna have to listen to a couple of, But, so my perception of this moment was different than what I thought it was gonna be. And oftentimes, especially me, I've experienced that things that I perceive aren't quite reality. Not that I'm crazy, although some people would say I'm crazy, and some people are probably going to watch and clip this to use as evidence of how crazy I am. But regardless of those facts, we perceive things differently than what they are, and we allow our emotions to affect those perceptions, whether it be fear, paranoia, sadness, even happiness. All of those things skew what we are seeing. So we are not actually getting the true objective reality. And I'm saying that to say it all goes in, Just give me a little bit. Let me work through some cobwebs. We're gonna string it together. We got a little bit of something here. It's in here. It's a little bit of something. We're gonna pull it out. But the core of it, I know for sure, is that perception and reality are just two different things for many different reasons. And we allow oftentimes the perception of what we think, what others think, what the world thinks. We allow those perceptions to shape our own minds. And then we allow our minds to be the things that hold us back or hinder us or hurt us. Our minds can even hurt us. Our minds can push us to very bad places to do very bad things. That's part of the reason that I'm unable to speak. At least I tell myself that, because the emotions of my perceived reality of some of the things that the people I love and care about have done to themselves, to me, some of the things that I've done to them, that's what shapes us. I'm going to try to stay away from too much of the, I'm going to try to weave it in. But for the individual, for me, the perception was that this task was something that I could not do. Something that I had done, almost like 100 times before. Something that I truly enjoy. Something that has made me the happiest that I felt in a long time, which is just speaking. Speaking for the working class people. Speaking in a way that is enjoyable and authentic, especially in this world of AI slop. Just being me. But I told myself that I couldn't do this task. And like I said, some of those reasons were right. But 90% of those reasons were wrong. And I did need time away, but I don't think I needed as much time as I took. And I think that maybe if I would have been processing things in real time, in a more talk manner, I don't know. Who knows? We live with what we have. We get the hand. We play it. And this is what I'm doing right now. The reality is, I personally, I can't stay away. The reality is that I need to be here for many different reasons, because it gives me something. It gives me something that I didn't necessarily know that I needed. And in the times in which I've been struggling, especially, the reality is that I see that this platform and this community that I've built is just incredible. Absolutely, the kindness, the compassion, the empathy, the moments where I didn't want to feel human, and the moments where I wanted to isolate. People didn't let me. Random strangers on the internet, but I don't know. I feel like the way that we communicate, we're not exactly strangers. We're a little more formal. And so my reality is that even though in this moment I'm in my kitchen alone, the reality is that I am not alone. There's a lot of people in my life that might not be right here in this room. There's a lot of people that might not even be geographically in my area at the moment, but there are so many people experiencing similar things that I'm experiencing, so many people experiencing pain, so many people experiencing life. We're not alone. But our minds will tell us that we're alone. And my cadence, the way that I speak, it's going to be a little different because the teleprompter in my head, I don't want to go too far off track, and I don't just want to be talking about all kinds of mumbo jumbo. I want to kind of keep it somewhat tight. But I'm still a little shell shocked, I'm not going to lie. different reasons. But I can't keep telling myself that those reasons are why I can't participate in the things that I need to participate in. I can't tell myself that those things are the reason that I need to sit around and just be quiet. Because different people have different luxuries in life. And whether it's good or bad, my perceived luxury is that I can speak. Sometimes well. Sometimes, people vibe with what's said. And perception versus reality is very important, because being on here and speaking is a brand. It's an image. It's something that, not to say that, it is what it is. You see all the creators. You see what they have to do. You see how people make whatever to be whatever for everybody or whoever they want or for the money, And so there's so many crazy things that you have to kind of struggle with just in that regard. And I struggle personally with getting on here, especially in these last few moments, is because for whatever reason, the way that I've conducted myself on my platform, people reach out to me and they talk to me as a leader. And that's such a crazy thing to me, because that's, that reality, it's hard to perceive. Because I'm not a leader. Just because I can speak does not make me a leader. But, one of the things that I'm learning, especially in my struggling mental times, is that you actually do not wake up and choose to be a leader. So, last year, threw on the suit, hey, Antifa CEO, blah, 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 still the CEO, but working a little differently nowadays. It was good satire, good content, but it made me realize that people actually do not just wake up one day and say that they are a leader. And I think that's what made it kind of funny is, Donnie signed them papers and suddenly Antifa's an organization and all these things. And realistically, you can kind of just wake up and be the leader of that. But, people make you a leader. You don't, if you just wake up and say, I'm a leader, who are you leading? No one. People make you a leader. So I realize now that leadership is like not a choice, which is very weird. It's not like a choice you get to make. People choose you to speak for them, and you kind of have to do it. You can choose to do it, of course, and it's a big responsibility, but, and people do it differently. We've seen history. We've seen some crazy people. And I think that's one of the crazy things about it for me is you see the picture that's painted as people who are supposed to be leaders, and here I am in one of the most emotionally vulnerable, the most emotionally raw states that I've been in my entire life, at a time where I'm aware of my emotions and I know that there's no way that I can process this alone, and I'm having to offload it publicly, which sometimes feels embarrassing, but I know that it's what I have to do to make it through the moment. And I don't see how that is leadership, because we read the books. They don't tell you how Napoleon was feeling. They're not telling you how Donnie's feeling. Donnie just goes out there and talks, So what is leadership? Because you see these people who portray strength, and you have to be strong in all the moments. But the reality is that we are all people. We're all struggling in different ways for different things. So, what is leadership? The perception of leadership is essentially to lie no matter what, to be no matter, be whatever you got to be. But the reality, at least what I've seen in this moment, is that leadership is whenever the people don't let you fall. And that was something that really hit me. It was something that I didn't quite understand. And maybe I do now, I don't know. I tell myself things. You got to tell yourself whatever you got to tell yourself. And I tell myself I understand these things, but we don't really know anything. But I see that example of leadership as much more in line with what I would picture it to be, because I don't see myself as getting up here and saying things and people just doing what I want. That's crazy work. That's psychopathic. I see myself as someone who works for you in a way that is just different, substantially different than what other people are offering. And the perception that I put on the task that I'm trying to do and the way that I conduct myself on this platform did not allow me to actually participate in the reality, because I see now that you don't need me to come on here in a suit and tie. You don't need me to be clean shaven. You don't need me to be anything more than I am. You just need me. And I'm not saying you need me as a person, but the thing about it is when we created the propaganda factor and whenever we made the content the way that we made it, I kind of screwed up. I made a really big mistake, one that I definitely did not realize. And I kind of became the propaganda, especially with the suit and tie Antifa CEO. That was, it was wild. I'm surprised we haven't had legal ramifications for that. We've had other ramifications in my life for sure. Legal ones, not so much. But, who knows? Time will tell. Those videos are still up. We're not taking them down. But I see now that it's not about needing a person, it's about needing a vessel. And when I say I became the propaganda, what I mean is that I just willingly lend my face, my voice, my ideas. I willingly lend it to the working class movement because that's what propaganda is. It has to be embodied in some way. In the reality of that, I told you, we're going to bring it together. We're going to step up from the individual now and move into the collective, because the reality is that propaganda is reality. It's smoke and mirrors, but when you look at everything, it's all smoke and mirrors. Propaganda molds perception, and I know that I said that perception is different from reality, but whenever we take our perception and we allow it to directly affect our reality, whether that be stopping us from doing what we need to do or actually allowing us to engage in the things that we need to engage in, perception can become reality. And I think that's the magic of propaganda, because that's what we're doing here. We are taking the perception that working class people are slaving every day. We're taking the perception that so many people are tired of this life that we're having to live, for mega yachts, for private jets, for terabytes of information of horrible things to come out on private islands and billionaires and all of this that we paid for that. That's what people aren't realizing, is that those shifts that we're working, all that money that's getting stolen from us, we paid for those horrible things to happen on those islands. And so the perception is the reality, because we perceive what we're given, especially right now with this administration. They are giving us a master class in perception versus reality, and we are showing them that our reality is different. It's been hard for me to stay up with the current events. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm not plugged in 24/7 like I used to be, because my mental capacity is not there, and I've really just been using time for self-care and mental fortitude. I've been doing a lot of reading and writing and just making sure that I'm sound in where I need to be. I've kind of kept my finger on the pulse. So of course I know about, how could we not? We live in a plugged in world. Of course I know about the things that were going on with ICE in all the different areas and how we were pushing back against those, but it shows you that this administration understands that perception is reality, because the perception of troops being able to be deployed anywhere in the country at any given time, the perception of people being able to be stolen from their houses in the middle of the night, the perception that the president of the United States can pluck other leaders from their country I mean, that's the reality that we're living in because that's what's happening. And even though we're pushing back and saying that our reality is different, we really have to realize, they're doing a good job at pushing their reality. And that's why I couldn't just sit around and make excuses anymore for why I'm not doing the things that I feel like I want to do. Because everybody has a role. And one of the things about just life is you kind of get to choose what your role is. In some ways, your role is chosen because of the things that you can do, all of that. But in other ways, you get to choose your role and you get to choose the level of participation. And I really enjoy my role. I really enjoy what we've built. I enjoy connecting people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy speaking. Like I said, doing this in many ways is some of the most fun that I've had in my life because I see the numbers and I see that people listen, and it's a very validating feeling to want to speak and to see people listen and to see people respond and to see people, just to see people. Honestly, if we're being 100% honest, that's the most magical thing about this is just talking and seeing so many people and feeling and sharing in their emotions with them for a moment, because it's a, the platform's getting bigger, but just speaking to people and feeling what they're feeling and how capitalism and all these things and just the struggles is magical. Life's a magical thing. Life's a very hard thing. Very tough. But life is what we make it. And it can be magical. Some of us are more magicians than others, but, that's why I couldn't continue to make excuses for myself to not be here. Because my cup, I'm going to be 100% honest. We're propaganda. There's no point in lying. I've been so vulnerable with y'all over the past couple months. In a way that I definitely did not think I would be, but has definitely made me feel better. But, there's no point in lying to y'all. Because I'm your propaganda. I work for you. I need you. Not in a codependent way, but just in a, we need each other. There's no point in lying about anything. Why would I? Don't have anything really to lose. My ego died a long time ago because your reputation is completely irrelevant. That's, part of perception versus reality is your perception, your reputation, people's reputation, the administration's reputation, all of those things. The reputation is actually completely irrelevant. How people perceive you is completely irrelevant. It actually only matters who you are, your character. Your character is the only thing that's important. Because people can think you're good, people can think you're bad, and you can be the complete opposite. It's irrelevant. And I didn't have the best character before. Look, let's bring it back. Wasn't the best before, and I'm never going to be the best, but I'm always trying to be better. And I think all of us are trying to be better. But my cup was not full. And they say that you can't pour from a cup that's empty. My cup wasn't empty. It had some space for sure. Hey, half full, half empty. It depends how you see it. My cup was definitely not full. But what I've learned is that I have to kind of keep pouring. It might sound crazy. I'm a crazy guy. Ah. But I have to keep pouring. Because if I'm not pouring, then other people don't have enough in their cups and they can't fill mine back up. We can get into the physics. The math, it checks out. It checks out. If we do it on paper, it'll check out. If the AI companies can do their little circle jerk with the money, I think that our emotional support for each other, I think it checks out. That energy, it all comes back. But I have to keep pouring. because I need someone else's cup to fill, and I need their cup to start pouring, and it's all going to come back. In this platform, especially the growth in the last month, we've doubled the Propaganda Factory platform in the last month. It has showed me, like I said, that leadership is people coming to you when you need them. Leadership is people not letting you fall. And the reality is that the people that are like, oh, I'm so strong, I'm big Mr. Leader and whatnot, like that's fake. It's cool to be that sometimes, but at the same time, we're human. You gotta give people the 3D. You got to give yourself the 3D. You got to feel your emotions. And I feel like oftentimes I tell myself I'm not strong because of how much I've been letting just come out. But so many of you remind me that strength is allowing it to come out. And that strength is actually sharing it in a way that other people can learn. Because, life is a one-shot go. You don't get any redos. That's why yesterday in many ways is irrelevant. We can't just pretend like it didn't exist, but we have to exist in the context of what is now and make our decisions accordingly. I don't want to keep going. I don't want to keep going because I don't feel like it, and I don't necessarily know if I've said anything. I've said perception versus reality. I've said that my perception and the reality that I am living in is different because I perceive that I can't do things, but then I just push a few buttons and here we are doing them. We perceive that the challenges that we're facing right now in this country, in our lives, in our world, we perceive that they are harder than they are, but I think that we'll see that when we come together, things are quite easy. Not as easy as we wish and not as expedient as we hoped. But I think that we can perceive things that are impossible and we can make that a reality. That's just kind of like a human thing, especially when we come together. I can't sit around alone and shape anyone's perception, but we push a few buttons, we get a good message. And millions of people's perception can be changed. And that's what we're working on right now. I'd put out a little long form recently just talking about, what the Propaganda Factory is and what we're doing. And, this is the people's propaganda. This is the working class message. And I'm sorry that I couldn't beat it every day for a little while. I'm sorry that I had to weave my emotions in and whatnot. But I think that, especially with the team that we've built, there's so many people, they keep going. So even though I was kind of down and out and I had to fall off from the front lines, there's so many people that just kept pushing. And we saw it. We saw the streets filled. We saw the content getting pumped. We saw real-time responses to all the lies that this administration is putting out. We saw this administration being held accountable, not quite nearly as much as we need them to be, but we are not letting them sweep under the rug the fact that ICE is literally murking Americans in the street. People are continuing to fight. And I see that things are always bigger than what you make them. Things are always, they're bigger than you. And even though you perceive whatever, reality is always different. And we just have to be open to it. And I think that when we bring as many people as we can together, that reality is such a malleable thing. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to go forever because it's just not the same for me. It's not the same right now. And I don't actually think it'll ever be the same for me. I think that things in my life are just going to be different. I think that my reality is just going to be different, for better or worse, for the things that I've had to experience in the most recent, time, for the tragic loss of my life right now. I have a life built for poetry. Sorry, everyone, but, I think things are just going to be different for me, and I'm going to embrace those things, and I'm going to continue to just be open and just let the propaganda flow. And I'm going to continue to engross myself in the working class movement, especially more because I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm a man who needs purpose. I'm a man who enjoys what I enjoy. And I enjoy speaking. I enjoy this. I enjoy every aspect of the interaction. We're not having anybody really come up today, but sitting around and having a good talk with somebody, other people in the trenches, other creators, bringing up, the professionals we've had, the people deplatformed, other team members, just the community that is being built, because that's our objective. Our objective is to connect the millions of people that we need connected in real time, so that we can get whimsical in these motherfucking streets, baby. Because the streets right now are longing for us to be whimsical. These billionaire profits too high. Too high. But like I said, I don't want to go forever because I can't. That's just not life. But I'm going in the moment. And I'm just, every moment we have to just, we got to be what we are, man. We got to be what we are. And, I personally, I'm a sick life radical. And even though I'm going through things personally, y'all don't let me go through it alone. And that's, I think, I don't know if MAGA has that. I think, MAGA is like, red pill, get more dangerous, whatever they're reading, if they can read at all. But I don't think they have that. I don't necessarily know if the compassion and the empathy exist on their side, because I've been in those conservative churches, and yes, they pretend to be compassionate and empathetic. Before you know it, everyone in the congregation is talking about you. Everybody knows your business. Everybody judging. So I don't know, I don't know what they got over there. It's been a long time since I've been over there. But I know what we got over here. And it's different. It's definitely different. And it's magnetic. And I don't know. I don't want to go forever. I guess I'm going to call it. We did a good job today. I don't know how my schedule is going to work with doing this. I don't know so many things. I'm so uncertain. But at the same time, I'm trying to build certainty. So whatever life brings, I'll continue to pump this propaganda. And we're going to continue to build the teams for all the platforms to continue to get it pumping. Keep it pumping. We got the midterm elections this year. That's going to be the freaking shit show. Especially with these troops in the streets and stuff like that. We already know things are going to get a little crazy with that. But it's okay, because we know that the streets long for us to be whimsical. The perception of what they can do and the reality of what we will allow them to do, two completely different things. Two completely different things. With that, everyone, I'm going to call it today. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for being here. On my closing note, I want to say that if you or if anyone that you know or love is struggling with mental health issues, please don't only use the free resources available, but reach out to this community. We have so many people in this community who are going through the same things, and we can't spread that pain, man. The pain that we feel when it's spread to the people that we love, it's amplified in ways that you can't imagine. So, I'm going to close today with, I'm going to make my promise to y'all, natural causes only. Because they're going to need a fucking wrecking ball or something. Like, I'm just going to be out here living as hard as I can. And I'm going to be living for my best friend, who I recently lost. So, with that, I am going to close, because I don't want these emotions to come out. We've done enough crying on camera.